Hello, this is Chris, and we are finishing up our last few questions here in Module 2 for the Math of Digital SAT Practice Test 1. And again, keep in mind, try to offer reminders each video and every few questions that if you're looking at a module that has different questions, that might mean you're looking at the harder module. This is going to be the easier of the two modules given because you get different modules for Module 2 depending on the performance in Module 1. So this is the module we got when we just skipped through Module 1. So if you see different questions, don't worry. That just means that maybe you got a different module. So here, let's dive into question 20. In the linear function f of 0 equals 8, and f of 1 equals 12. Which equation defines f? So basically, let's talk about what this means in words. When you plug in a 0 for x, you're supposed to get 8 as your result. So let's see which one of these is going to give us that result. If we plug in a 0 for x, we should get 8. All right, let's test it out. For a, if we plug in a 0 for x, 12 times 0 plus 8. Here, when x is 0, well, guess what? That does give us 8. So we say, okay, let's keep a. It doesn't mean that's our answer. It means we're not going to eliminate it right now. It is possible that just for one set, more than one function works, which is why you'd have to try the other set afterwards. But for now, let's just plug in a 0 for x. Here, this next one would give us a 0. So that's not right. It was supposed to give us 8 as the result. Here, this one, when we plug in a 0 for x, this one would give us 12. No thanks. And then this last one, this one, hey look, this also gives us 8, which means we keep d on the table. All right, let's try our second set of values here. So now we're going to plug in a 1 for x, and when we plug in a 1, we should get 12 as our result. So let's try a. When x equals 1, let's see what we get here. 12 times 1 is 12 plus 8. That would be 20. So that's not it. So we already know that d is going to be our correct answer. And just to double check, when you plug in a 1 for x, 4 times 1 is 4 plus 8. What do you know? That one equals 12. So both values match the results that you were supposed to get based on plugging in a 0 and then afterwards plugging in a 1 for x for those two values given to tie into the functions in your answer choices. So we get answer choice D for 20, and now we get to move on to 21. And it says 14j plus 5k equals m. And even without reading the question, but sometimes it's helpful to just do a quick glance at the answer choices. They're really just asking us to solve for k. So here, they're going to say it in words, and sometimes the words can be confusing. So if you need a visual representation of what you're supposed to do, that sneak peek ahead can be really helpful. But here they say the given equation relates the numbers j, k, and m. Which equation correctly expresses k in terms of j and m? Okay, so let's see how we can solve for k on this. And so here, to isolate k, first we would have to subtract 14j from both sides. I'm going to just rewrite the equation here, and then we're going to start doing the steps. Subtract 14j from both sides of the equation, because in math, whatever you do to one side, you also have to do to the other. So we will have 5k equals m minus 14j. And then we have to divide both sides by 5 to cancel out that coefficient. And so we will have k equals m minus 14j, and then the entire thing divided by 5. If we look at our answer choices, hey, that works out. That matches up perfectly with answer choice A. We didn't have to rearrange anything or change the signs of anything or just reorder the way that we wrote it. We happen to write it in a perfect way that is going to give us k equals m minus 14j over 5, just like we see in that first answer choice. All right, last question in this second module. So here it says RS equals 440, ST equals 384, TR equals 584. The side lengths of right triangle RST are given. Triangle RST is similar to triangle UVW, where S corresponds to V and T corresponds to W. What is the value of tangent of W? Okay, so there's a lot here. Let's go in parts. Here they give us these sides. and they talk about a triangle RST. So let's see if we can just draw a triangle RST. And here, we'll label this S and R and T, so RST. And for a right triangle, usually the way that they set it up is going to be that that middle letter is going to be your right angle. And if you want to confirm that, well, side TR is the longest side, which means that that has to be across from the right angle. So if you're trying to create your own image, then that's going to give you 584 is your hypotenuse and the right angle right across from that. So that's how you can know that you're actually coming up with something that's accurate for this particular triangle. And then ST would be 384. Okay, now they say it's similar to this other triangle, UVW. And they tell us that these sides, it says S corresponds to V, okay, T corresponds to W, and then U is our other angle, which is going to correspond to R. So here, S corresponds to V, T corresponds to W, so then we know the other one has to correspond. So that's how we match them up. And they want to know the tangent of W. So this is going to be a SOHCAHTOA question. And I know we had one of those in Module 1. So if you haven't reviewed it, make sure you review it. But your tangent from SOHCAHTOA tells you that the tangent of your angle, so tangent of W will equal the side that's opposite over the side that's adjacent. So here, tangent of W, well, if we're looking from this angle, this would be our opposite side, and this would be our adjacent side. But we don't necessarily know the exact values of these sides. What we do know is that we do know that these triangles are similar, which means even if the triangle has different side lengths, that the proportions are going to be the same. And I'm going to highlight this in a different color here just so it stands out a little bit. When they say similar, so that means that your corresponding sides, think corresponding, proportional. So that's what similar means. So when we're looking at similar triangles or similar figures of any kind, it just means that the corresponding sides will be proportional. And it also means that the corresponding angles will be equal. But here, for our purposes, we care about that proportionality because tangent W will be the same as tangent T. These are the corresponding angles. And when they say that these correspond, it means that their tangents will also correspond. So tangent W will be equal to 440 over 384. Now those are some pretty big numbers, but this is a fraction that can be reduced. And prior to reducing it, so one last little tidbit for your test-taking approach, try to use those answer choices to your advantage whenever you can, because this is a great example of where we can. Reducing this seems pretty tough to me, but what I notice is that this numerator is larger than this denominator. So even before I have to worry about what they're both divisible by, let's look at these answer choices and see if I see that relationship anywhere. A has a much smaller numerator than its denominator, so that's not it, because if you reduce it, again, that ratio is still going to remain. It's just going to be a reduced version of that ratio. B also has a smaller numerator. C also has a smaller numerator. So here, answer choice D is the only one where the denominator is actually less than the numerator. And that's exactly what we see here in this relationship. So I could spend all day trying to effectively reduce that fraction, but I don't have to. And since this is the last question in that last math module, we're getting to the tail end of the test. I bet we're tired. I bet we're tight on time. If you can make something like that would be very complicated to do mathematically, have a nice, easy shortcut to guide us to the right answer by recognizing that pattern, that can be a huge time saver and lead us to a correct answer on a pretty difficult and pretty complex math question. So hopefully a couple of those tidbits will help you come test day, and please stay tuned because in the rest of our video series we will cover all digital SAT practice tests released by College Board and offer explanations of every question therein. So stay tuned, and thanks so much for watching.